Yo, what up, Hyperchange? We're live. Uh, if you can hear me, just send a message just so I make sure the audio is good on this video. I'm gonna give people a couple seconds to join. I just posted the link to Twitter. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk Tesla. I've also put a link in the description, which is the hypercharts link to the Tesla stock price. So if you want to follow along while the market's closing, I'm seeing right now that Tesla is trading at about 204.39 per share. So Tesla today hit basically the lowest it's been in probably almost 2 years now, two-time lows. So I just kind of wanted to go live, talk about my thoughts on the company. I personally bought a little bit of shares today. For those who've been following Hyperchange, my newsletter, you know that I'm a very long-term Tesla investor. I take these opportunities to add to my position, and I've said that I've sort of been looking to strategically add financial advice. Nothing I say is financial advice. It's not a recommendation to buy Tesla, to sell Tesla. Everything that you say is everything that you do is your own decision. So I just like Hyperchange is me just open sourcing, my opinion. So I just want to make that really clear. But I did add today, and I do have a ton of ideas and opinions on what I think is gonna, going down with Tesla. And so I think, to sum it up in short, I think the market is incredibly skeptical of Tesla, A, of their 2019 and Q2 delivery guidance, and B, of the entire autonomy thesis, and is actually viewing this shift to autonomy, the Autonomy Investor Day, as a pivot of the storyline because they think Tesla is trying to distract the market from its core business not being profitable. And so I think it's a perfect storm. We've also had an autopilot crash, which has been getting some scrutiny and I think has been significantly overdone in the media, like almost every Tesla or autopilot crash is. And so you have these combination of factors that are leading to a ton of pressure on Tesla stock, and that is why we're seeing it trade at about 200 bucks per share. I made the video of this because it hit below 200 per share today, which I can't remember. I think it was, or I can't remember. I think it was almost 2 years ago that it was this low, and so. I do think someone just said, is bankruptcy a risk? And I think, yes, bankruptcy is a risk with Tesla. Like, people need to understand this, and it's a risky investment. Like, the company hasn't reached a point where it's mature enough to have stable cash flows to where I think it's a, solid investment. This is like a venture capital style investment. That's the way I look at it, a growth company, a growth stock. And through that lens, that's why I'm kind of excited about Tesla, because as much as, I'm frustrated by the share price being low. I'm kind of thankful for this opportunity to add, because as someone who's been watching this company for, almost a decade now, they've come so far in their business model. We've seen the Model 3 ramp successfully. Model S and X are been really successful products. The company is, to a point now where I think it's closer to financial stability and profitability than ever, but people are least confident in it than ever. And another reason that I felt confident buying today was because of the recent capital raise. Like, Tesla just raised 2.7 billion. They probably have over 4 billion of cash in the bank. They just had their worst quarter. It looks like things are going to get better from here. And so I look at a company with, plenty of cash. The biggest sort of, question mark on my mind longer term was the Maxwell acquisition. Are they going to be able to secure this next generation battery technology? And now that has been solved too. They've closed the Maxwell deal. So I look at a company like Tesla, which, sure, they had a bad quarter. They're going through this point of trying to figure out where demand is. And it looks like the next quarter could be tough as well. But longer term, I see a company that's still on track to grow, secured that battery technology, has plenty of cash to make it through this rough patch. And so that's why I felt like today was a good decision to add, or I felt like today was a good time to add to my position. I mean, Tesla right now, a market cap of about $36 billion is what I'm seeing. And this is a company that last year did about $22 billion. So it's trading about 1.5 times trailing sales for a company that's compounded its revenue growth at about 90% since IPO. So, as a growth investor, I think this is an extremely low price sales multiple if you believe in the long-term story, and then that will keep growing for Tesla. And I do. And so that's why I was excited to add today. But I think it's sort of a weird day for Tesla shareholders because this is much lower than I thought it would ever get. And to see them, have successfully ramped the Model 3, and have still see the equity price this low, I will say is surprising. But, I've been taking this opportunity to add. And so, anyway, would love to get some questions from you guys about what your thoughts are, or if you have any other questions. Video on the history of failed leading tech companies. That is a good video idea. Maybe a little too bearish given the Tesla vibes right now. Yeah, and so the China thing is another big reason that people are skeptical is I think, this trade war with China, China is a big piece of Tesla's business, and until they get that factory in Shanghai off the ground, they're going to be subject to this entire trade war situation. But what I think is really exciting longer term is I just was watching a video today of the Tesla Chinese Gigafactory 3. It's almost like a full building. This was a pile of dirt just 3 months ago. So that's another really exciting thing going on in Tesla's business model is if they can get that China factory up online in the next 6 months or a year, that could actually start producing positive cash flow for the rest of the business, I think. Can it go lower? Definitely Tesla stock could go lower right now, no question about it. I mean, I think that's the most important thing to look at this company is it's a risky investment, venture capital style. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. It's an extremely volatile equity price. Q2 delivery. Okay, yeah, actually, great point. So I guess the main reason I wanted to make this video is I think the biggest thing that's happening right now is Tesla's guidance. So Tesla's guidance right now is about 360 to 400,000 cars delivered this year, which would be a significant increase from 245,000 delivered the year before. So that's great numbers. But the problem is they only delivered 63,000 cars in Q1. So we're looking at a significant increase in the average quarter deliveries for them to hit that 360,000 guidance. They basically have to hit an average of 100,000 cars delivered per quarter every single quarter throughout the year to hit the low end of their delivery guidance. And I think it's just becoming clearer and clearer that that's a harder and harder milestone to hit. And so I think part of what's happening right now, and at least I'm factoring in a miss of their guidance, like I think it would be very impressive if Tesla could hit 360,000. My personal estimate's around 320, 330,000. And that's just kind of where I'm seeing now, but it's so up in the air about what's going to happen with Q2. And I think that's the biggest, if I could put my finger on one thing about Tesla stock right now, I think, the market hates uncertainty. And so I think this is a prime example of what we're seeing that uncertainty shine through, that people are like, okay, it looks like it's going to be really tough for Tesla at their guidance. Q2 guidance is for 90,000 to 100,000 cars, which implies a huge pickup in demand, but it doesn't seem like we're seeing that. So I think this cloud of uncertainty is really hanging over Tesla stock, and I think a lot of that either gets alleviated or confirmed when the Q2 deliveries gets announced in early July. Yeah, I know they reiterated annual production in Q2 of 100,000 and deliveries of around 90 to 100,000, but I just think the market doesn't believe that. Like, I don't believe they're going to hit 90 to 100,000. I'm closer to about 85,000 deliveries, maybe 80,000 for Q2. And I think, yeah, the market's dropping as well. So of course you're going to get your high beta tech stocks pulling back. What would I do if Elon was bumped out as CEO? I think that would be, I wouldn't be happy about that situation. I'm invested because of Elon in a lot of ways. And so, yeah. Elon is in prove it to me mode now. Yeah. And so I'm not really sure what that comment was, but I think, that's the general gist is the market is like, Elon, let's see what's happening. Show us the results. You said you were going to be profitable every quarter going forward. That's not happening. The autonomy pivot, that nobody believes that. So I think there's just so many, question marks up in the air. And frankly, Elon Musk has lost all his credibility to the public markets. And that's sort of the bet you're making if you buy Tesla today, is that he does have some of that credibility left. Why doesn't people create a Tesla network 1.0 where people can rent out their cars on Turo, etc.? I mean, I think Tesla could launch an early version of the Tesla network without full autonomy, with drivers in the front seat or people driving themselves, etc., like you mentioned. But I think as that would have to be not capital intensive, and I think we're still a ways away from that happening. Any other questions here? What would it take for me to get bearish? This is a really good question. So I think, longer term, I think Tesla's efficiency edge in actually electric vehicle technology, if I saw their edge there, an advantage in like battery range, battery cost, and that efficiency table that Matt Joyce has, and they really started to lose their edge there and other companies were putting out far more efficient EVs, then that would really, really concern me. And I would get bearish on Tesla, but so far that hasn't happened. And actually the Maxwell acquisition makes me think Tesla will increase their lead in efficiency. The other thing that would sort of I guess make me uncomfortable with my Tesla investment is if they get to like above around 100,000 deliveries a quarter and they're still losing a ton of money, and they're not showing improvement in the cash flow, even though they ramp production to about 100,000 or deliveries to 100,000. But I think if they do ramp deliveries there, they'll get there. And that's my thing about Tesla is, I feel like I'm buying a business right now for 36 billion that just did 22 billion in revenue last year. They're probably going to do 25 billion in revenue this year. And I think there's so much growth left in the tank. We have Model Y, that's that's another $10-15 billion revenue product. The semi, the energy, if solar turns around, I mean, if autonomy happens, I think nobody's pricing in any of these growth avenues. And so on one hand, you have people like, Elon Musk and Gene Munster saying Tesla is the most exciting product pipeline of any company on the planet. But then we have the public markets valuing this at 1.5 times trailing price sales for a company that's compounded at, 90% revenue growth. And so there's this huge disconnect between people believing that Tesla is basically a fraud and is like an entire sham, and this belief that Tesla is this amazing growth story. And I think the pendulum is all the way swung towards nobody has any faith in the growth or future of Tesla. And so, that's why personally, as sort of a contrarian, super long-term investor who believes in the technology, I thought it was prudent to step in and add to my position. Any other questions here? I do think the Shanghai Gigafactory gets finished probably sometime, towards the end of this year. The progress on that has been incredible. I think Tesla, sorry, so many questions coming in. I'm trying to read them all. Why doesn't Tesla simply make conservative estimates and then crush them? I think this is an incredible question, and something that I've really, really struggled with myself is that I think a little bit more conservative numbers, and I think they're slowly doing this and slowly adjusting to this, would go a long way in just setting the bar. Because I think that's one of the biggest issues of Tesla, and us longs have been a little bit frustrated, is because there's been so much progress in terms of growth in the company, improving the technology, delivering the Model 3, all this incredible stuff that nobody's really appreciating because sort of the headlines and the missed targets are taking all the hype instead of the accomplishments, which is really frustrating. But that dichotomy, I think, is also an opportunity in the divergence, or that's sort of the reason why it could be diverging from true value. And Elon hates conservative numbers, of course. Anyway, great question. I'm looking for a good question here. Should Tesla advertise? Part of the reason that they're not advertising and they actually raise prices has me think that Tesla is not as desperate for demand as people think, and I just think demand will bump back up to about 80 or 85,000 cars per quarter in Q2, and then there. And so even if they don't, that's sort of why I'm excited about the company. So I'm like, okay, even if they miss guidance like in a huge way, which I'm sort of expecting, annual 360 to 400, and they deliver like 300 or 330,000 cars this year, like I think they only lose another $1 billion or $1.5 billion worst case scenario this year, and therefore they have plenty of cash cushion. And I just think when the Model Y comes, as the energy business ramps, like those cash needs will decrease. And so now that they have this cash in the bank, I just think there's a lot, like I just feel like the company's on much safer and sure footing than it's ever been. They have the Model 3 production process ironed out. They're not dropping prices. They actually raised the prices by $500 across the lineup a couple weeks ago. So I think the financial desperation of Tesla is far overdone right now. Anyway, I'm about to sign off, but I just wanted to go live to talk about Tesla, answer some of your questions, explain, my thoughts of the company. Never exciting to see your biggest position, like, significantly go down as a shareholder. But, on the flip side, I think, that's the market. You can never predict what's going to happen. For all those people who are like, what's going to happen in the share price? Is it going to go up or down? Is it a good time to buy? Or, I'm not a financial advisor. I have no idea what the market's going to do. I have no idea what's going to happen. That's sort of the fun of investing, is you can never predict it. And so I guess today is one of those days. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon. I have a really awesome podcast that I am waiting to put out about Tesla that should be, I'm just like waiting for approval to post. So that should be out really soon. Anyway, you guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.